All right, so we have now arrived at the substantive portion of tonight's meeting. To begin, we have some general site updates from EPA Portland Harbor Team Lead, Caleb Shaffer. We'll then hear a short presentation on Scribe, which is EPA's sampling environmental data and design database, followed by a short update on the Portland Harbor Institutional Control Plan. EPA will be available to take questions during the optional breakout sessions that follow tonight's meeting. Again, those are from 7 to 8. So we do ask that if you have any questions, we could please hold them until then or put them in the chat so we can make sure to keep track of them for that breakout session. And with that, Caleb, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Alyssa. And good evening, everyone. Thank you again for spending the time to be with us tonight. It really means a lot. We know your time is precious. So first of all, I just want to say thank you. As Alyssa said, my name is Caleb Shaffer. I'm with EPA Region 10, and I'm the Portland Harbor Team Lead. We have an updated fact sheet, so you can see the first page of it here on the screen, and we will put a link to that quarterly fact sheet in the chat so folks can look at the whole entire thing. If you have questions about it, want to talk about it further, please join me in one of the big breakout rooms, and more than happy to talk further about it. I have a few updates for tonight. The first is an exciting update. I wanted to announce that we have a new Portland Harbor Remedial Project Manager. During our last collaborative, we said goodbye to Ben Lake, who, if folks were on that, remember. Ben was previously a project manager working on Portland Harbor. He moved on to other sites, as often happens at EPA. And we were fortunate enough to look externally and did an exhaustive search to find a new member, for the team to replace Ben. And I'm happy to announce that we have that person here tonight. And her name is Laura Hanna. And Laura is one of 6 RPMs who will be working on the site. And while we are still kind of figuring out workload and whatnot, she will be our point person for source control at the Portland Harbor Superfund site. But I just wanted to kind of take the opportunity, a minute or two, for Laura just to quickly introduce herself. Laura, you out there?
Yeah, hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Laura Hanna. I am originally from outside of Boston, Massachusetts, so East Coaster. And I moved out to the Pacific Northwest after graduate school, where I've been working as a consultant. My background is as an environmental geologist and clean water hydrogeologist, and really excited to be a part of the EPA team and excited to get to work with you all and meet you. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. And Laura recently did a coffee chat, so folks may have gotten to talk with her further at that, and there'll be more opportunities moving forward, but we are very excited to have Laura on board. So welcome, Laura. The next update is wanted to just highlight a portion of the river that's kind of on the border of Willamette Cove and McCormick and Baxter. And we have a graphic that we can pull up that will kind of show folks where this is at. And the reason we wanted to introduce this tonight, and so you can see the graphic actually just got pulled up. It's an area that we're calling the Willamette Cove Sliver. And the reason I wanted to highlight this tonight was because it represents an area that through our negotiation with the Willamette Cove parties, EPA, intended to incorporate this area as part of the project area, but in that back and forth, as the negotiation will happen, things sometimes get modified and changed, and what happened ultimately through this negotiation was this very small sliver here wasn't included in the project area, so it's not being addressed currently as part of the Willamette Cove project area. And so you can kind of see it's the purple area, very small purple area there. It's about, there we go, cursor's going over it. It's roughly about 600 square feet, 800 square feet. And we wanted to highlight this tonight because we wanted to just share this information with everyone, and also kind of assure folks that we are committed to addressing this area. Some historic sampling has been done in this area, and the contamination is largely metals. We have been in discussions with the Willamette Cove in-water parties to take on this site, and those discussions to take on this small sliver rather as part of their larger project area. And those discussions are continuing. The in-water group, which it has done some surface sampling, and we do expect some preliminary results in the next month or so. So we do look forward to additional characterization of this small area, in addition to the historic information we have regarding the metals. But wanted to just convey to folks that this is a priority for us. We are committed to ensuring that this small sliver is included as part of remedial design and ultimately does get addressed. So we will continue to work towards that end and also provide updates to everyone here as things develop. If you do have any other questions about the sliver, please come to the breakout room. It's the room 1 overall site and project area updates during the 7 to 8 p.m. timeframe, and more than happy to answer any questions that folks do have. Just really quickly, it is right near the railroad bridge. Yes, and so I see that question. You can kind of see, if you look really closely at the river, you can see the railroad bridge actually going down and across the river there. So any other questions, please join me in the breakout room. Happy to answer them. The next update, wanted to just also highlight, as we do every meeting, that we do have a story map that is an interactive tool for the sites, and the quarterly updates are now reflected in the story map for the maintenance plan for the story map. This is a dynamic tool. We always want to continue to promote it and encourage folks that they share it with others, use it. Let us know if you have any thoughts, comments, feedback, and we're going to put a link to that story map so folks can explore it further in the chat. So that concludes the updates I have. I'm going to transition it now to Josie Clark on the EPA team, who has a few additional updates to share.
Thanks, Caleb. I'm Josie. I'm one of the 6 RPMs that Caleb mentioned on the team. And thank you, Alyssa. I'm going to quickly go over the data availability right now. The programmatic institutional control plan that's recently been distributed, and how we're progressing with the community impacts mitigation plan. Go ahead, Alyssa. So for the data, and this is specifically about our analytical data. So this is the data that when we take sediment samples out of the river or pore water samples, that they get sent to a lab, and we find out what level of contamination is in those samples, what the chemistry is of those samples. And that's specifically the data that we're going to talk about here. There is other data that gets collected. There's bathymetry data, there's geotechnical data that's being collected now, but it's really the chemistry data that's driving a lot of our decision making about where the contamination is. And it can be handled all as one body of data, right? The site's broken into these different project areas, but it's really important that we have the data be comparable, that it all be really high quality data, and that we be able to know that the data in one project area is exactly the same basis as the data in a different project area. And so the way we've accomplished that is through the Portland Harbor Interim Database. And this is a database that's been stood up by the state under an agreement with EPA. And it's where all the performing parties are putting their data now, and where EPA reviews it and approves it. But it's not the kind of database that has a public face. So in order to provide public access to that data, what we're doing is taking all the data that's in the Portland Harbor interim database and replicating it on a Scribe database. Scribe is a program that EPA developed. It's a database platform that they developed to support surplus sites across the country. And it's free to the public, you can download it. And so we felt like this was the best tool to make it available to the public for now. Ultimately, once there's an information management platform, all this data will reside there and there'll be an easier interface for the public to access it. But until then, we wanted to make the data available in this way instead. And the other thing, we don't really know how many people want the data. So it's available now. If you want it or you know someone who wants it, have them reach out to me. We have a guide, it's a couple of pages and it just walks you through how to, you download the Scribe program and then you go subscribe to the data. It's pretty straightforward, but it's a whole lot of detail, right? It's all the chemistry data that we've been collecting. And then we could also do a tutorial session. So I'm just going to wait and see how much interest I get and, you know, reach out to me if you either want to access the data or you're interested in a tutorial to access the data, and we'll go from there. And then if you want to talk more about this, I'll be in the Community Impacts Mitigation Plan breakout room starting at 7. Next topic is the institutional control, the programmatic institutional control plan. So as you all know, the record of decision identified the major institutional controls that the site would use to make sure that it was protective in the long run and that the engineering parts of the remedy stay intact. And then it also said that during remedial design, we would add more details to those institutional controls and plan for them with more specificity. And so that's where we're at right now. We have recently published the programmatic institutional control plan, and that was written by the city and state under an agreement with EPA. We released it this fall. And the purpose of it really is identify and describe how legal and regulatory authorities will be used in the future to ensure that the institutional controls are effective and permanent. And the audience for it is the regulatory agencies who are going to be involved in the institutional controls and the performing parties. And what's in the IC plan, it talks about site-wide ICs, which is the fish advisory and the permitting process that we go through and we're involved in to make sure that those permits aren't given for things that will further spread contamination at this point. And then it also lays out for this project area specific institutional controls, which are going to be those land use restrictions, waterway use restrictions. How does that process work? What do performing parties need to do to plan for those institutional controls in their project area? And also, what data are they going to need to provide so that we, at the end up with a very comprehensive database of all the different institutional controls in the harbor. So that's where we're at right now, is this programmatic IC plan. I anticipate it will probably be updated one time before remedial action starts. So we're happy to take any feedback and we'll kind of keep that in the hopper and revisit it down the road. And what's going to happen next is project area design teams will read this programmatic IC plan. It will help guide their development of their own project area specific IC plans, both how to establish those land use restrictions, those regulated navigation areas, and also what kind of monitoring and maintenance will be required in the long term. And then after construction, we'll be in a monitoring and maintenance phase for ICs to make sure that they stay in place. Next slide. If this has piqued your interest and you'd like to talk more about institutional controls, we're going to put together a standalone meeting on this in early 2023, and we'd love to have you join. So common theme, get back to me if you would like to be invited to that meeting, and we'll make sure that you're invited. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is our community impacts mitigation plan. Thanks for all your input that we got in the last meeting. That was very helpful. We have, at this point, built a proposed outline for the plan. And then in the next year, we'll put meat on the bones of that outline. At that point, there'll be so tonight, we're ready to share that outline in a breakout room. Love to get feedback. Once we do put all the content into that outline, there'll be another opportunity for performing parties and community to provide input on that. And then we're looking to finalize it based on that input in 2024. So if you want to check it out, check out the outline, come to that breakout room. And if I think saw something with a link to it somewhere also. So if you want to look at it on your own time and get back to me with any input, that would be fine too.